Hello everyone, and welcome to the video on principal square roots. So what is a principal square root? Well, you have this square root sign, and this means the principal square root of a number. Now, that word principal is kind of weird. It could mean main or primary, but in the world of math, we're going to interpret it as the word positive. It is the positive square root. So let's take a number. Let's take 16, for instance. And 16 has two square roots. It's got a positive 4 and it has a negative 4, right? Because we could take positive 4 times positive 4 and get 16. Or we could take negative 4 times negative 4 and get 16. So there's two square roots. So in math, we have decided that we're going to call the positive square root the principal one. It doesn't mean that this one is wrong. It just means that this one is positive. So the word principal equals positive, the positive number. Now you might ask yourself, why do we need to know this? Well, because if I write this problem, if I write the square root of x equals 36, and I write the square root, if I take the square root of both sides, I would get x equals 6. That is only half right, because the square root of 36 also includes a negative 6, right? So here's how we would write it properly. We would say, if this is what we started with, that x squared equals 36, then I would say, okay, I'm going to take the square root of this side and plus or minus the square root of the other side. That way I make sure to include my minus sign. So this would equal x, which is the principal square root of x squared, right? It's the positive x, equals plus or minus 6, because positive 6 can get you to x, or positive 6 can be x, and x could also be negative 6. Both of those are valid answers. Now, there are two types of problems that you can do with regarding square roots. One type of problem is your plain old algebra problem. This is a problem where you just get numbers and you start crunching numbers. So it could be like x squared plus the square root of 3 equals y squared minus 7, or whatever your thing is. And when you solve this, you're going to have x squared equals plus or minus the square root of whatever number you're dealing with. So you're going to do the plus or minus. If, however, you have any kind of problem that is requiring you to calculate the distance of something, like if you're going from the distance of this town to this town, or if you are measuring the sides of a triangle, so you have an actual distance, if you have any kind of measurement that you're doing, then you just use the principal square roots. Principal square roots. Why? Well, the reason why is because you can't have a negative distance. This line, which is x, must be a positive number. There's no such thing as a line that is negative 3 inches. So, if you are doing just a number crunching algebra problem, make sure you put that plus or minus in front of your square root sign. If you are doing some sort of geometric problem where you're measuring a specific line or distance, then you need to focus on just the principal square root, because it doesn't make any sense to have a negative answer. Now, I will tell you that many people do not understand this whole square root and principal square root. And so it becomes kind of like commas in English class, where people just stick in these plus and minuses sometimes and they leave them out other times, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But you need to know that if the negative root is an option, then you put the plus minus sign in front. If the negative root is not an option, then you just stick with the plain old square root sign, which means positive. All right, there you go. That is principal square roots in a nutshell.